Hello world, Coach Chris here. We are delving into chapter 2 of Living the Hero's Journey by our friend Will Craig. So here we go, chapter 2 entitled Power of Myth. Don't be satisfied with myths that come before you. Unfold your own myth. Often the path we choose ends up being very different from the path that chooses us. Or, as French poet Jean de La Fontaine observed, a person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it. So referencing the hero's journey, right, the circle, think about maybe a series that you watch, if you're binging a Netflix series or something pre-binge, and the writers would get clever, right, because they would realize that people just didn't want to do the same cycle, the same pattern, hour after hour or half-hour series, whatever it was, because it kind of became contrived and very predictable. And so what they do is they do story arcs across episodes, right? And so that's just its magnitudes of the hero's journey, or its circles within circles. So sometimes you take side journeys. Sometimes you're on your path, you're on your journey, you have your major goal or objective and the major theme of what's going on in your life, but something pops up. Because sometimes shift happens, right? And things are out of your control. And in some instances, you take that little diversion, that little side trek, right? But it's still part of the larger arc. And if that side trek was worthy of your big journey, then it feeds into your bigger journey. A good real world example was Steve Jobs.
The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them.
Interesting, right? It's an interesting perspective on finding your path, and sometimes it's not quite the way you thought it would play out, or things pop up at some point and you explore, and you can build that into your overall theme or your overall goal or journey. Again, you're on a journey, and what story is awesome that doesn't have a low point, right? If every story was just like a person going through their journey and everything happened the way they wanted and it was perfect, it'd be kind of a boring story, right? And so you have to take that away. When you're at your lowest low, you have to realize it's part of the story. You're going to rise from that. You're going to move through it with mentors and advisors and helpers, and you're going to encounter the enemies that are going to want to keep you there or push you down, but that's okay because it's part of the journey. You just have to remember that. Last thing here is in chapter 2, to find satisfying answers to the question of who you are and why you are here requires going on an inner journey. The quest goes beyond understanding your personality traits, your likes and dislikes. It goes even deeper than discerning your values and beliefs. Once you begin to recognize and appreciate your overarching purpose for being here, you take command of your true essence. You become capable of delivering your unique gifts and talents to a universe that is waiting for you to awaken. I don't know. I mean, those kind of words, they kind of cause me to tear up. those kind of words in the midst of my existential crisis absolutely caused me to tear up, because I just felt like there was something more. I couldn't put my hand on what it was. I couldn't grab it. Like, what is it? But I'm getting there. And I think this YouTube channel might be part of realizing the potential that I can provide to the world. And so with that, chapter 2 is over. Shift happens. Peace.